call the meeting to order. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. All members are present. Approval of the agenda. You have a copy of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? No changes, council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes, August 16th, 2017, and August 24th, 2017 workshop. You all received them in your packet. Is there any changes, corrections, clarification needed? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve those meetings?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. This now brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. Now brings us to our reports and presentations. The Park Board report. Vicki?
Okay, the Park Board met last night in a regular session. They had a few items on the agenda for discussion. The first thing they did was they welcomed their new member, Ryan Relke. You appointed him at the last council meeting, and he had his first meeting last night. A couple of the other things, they received a campground report from the campground manager about how this season has been going. We only have, about 3.5 weeks left, and it's October 1st already, and we'll be blowing out lines. So the season is wrapping up, and we have had a very good year for the campground. A couple of items of unfinished business. As you know, they gated the outdoor rink to be used as a dog park, and we're getting some feedback now through Facebook and some other means as being very, very positive. Some of the comments, people want grass, picnic tables, and shade. Well, those are all three things that would come along if we do decide to build a dog park. So those things are good. They started talking about where they would locate the Comet spinner that was donated by the Girl Scouts. If you recall, that had happened over the last couple of months, and requested to be in the Splash Pad Park, but not set in stone yet that that's where it would be. Under new business, if you recall, in the preliminary budget, we kept in there the Tower Field Ball Field irrigation well. So that's one of their capital improvement plans that they will look at possibly for next year, as well as the replacement of the TC-45 tractor. And then also the campsite the water line replacement for the lakeside sites is also part of their capital improvement plan for next year. Informational items, the DNR has confirmed that we will be receiving a new fishing pier. Ours will be replaced, and there'll be a new one. It'll be done over the winter. It may arrive this fall, and they'll tow it out there in the spring, but we will have a new pier to replace the one that we have there. And also, they looked at the park shelter rental summary, and that's something they do at the end of every year. And the one thing that's a little different is with the school, with the summer rec. In the past, we'd always ask them to have their report at the first meeting in September, and that's always so problematic with school and the first day of school and everything that we had pushed that off to the October meeting. So that's why that was not on the agenda last night. And that is it for the Park Board.
Any questions?
I would like to add, the campground manager did ask that if possibly we could put some dog bag locations in there for people walking their dogs around the campsite sometime as a possibility. Those little bag things for, yeah, where you pull out the plastic bag.
Probably something like a station that's set like down at the dog park, I suppose.
Exactly.
Right, that's what he had suggested that, like when people walk along the lake in Sinclair Lewis Park. When people actually check in and they have a dog, we give them a bag, but those don't last very long.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. This will now take us into our action items. 7A, approve resolution 2017-52, airport M&O grant agreement.
So historically, every year, the city has been able to get a grant from MnDOT Aeronautics, which helps reimburse us for the cost of airport operations. It'll cover up to 75% of the maintenance costs of the airport, up to a cap, and the cap for the next 2 fiscal years has been set at $19,610 per year. So that is what this resolution here is to enter into the grant agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics for the maintenance operation funding for the Sauk Center Airport. And the grant terms and everything are exactly the same as prior years. It's just that the dollar amount, historically, it was always $13,814 until the last couple years they've upped it, and now we're at $19,610.
Questions?
There's really no reason why we would oppose entering into this.
If you would like to not get reimbursed, I suppose.
I guess if you want to pay the bill yourself, I guess,
That's just what I'm wondering.
We can put it in Keith's name at the next meeting if we want, but
You need a motion?
I guess I'd make a motion, we approve resolution to enter into the grant agreement.
I'll second it.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2017-52, entering into a grant agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics for maintenance and operations funding for the Sauk Center Airport. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve contract with State of Minnesota for Civic Arena for drivers testing.
Every year, the city, every year for the last almost 9 years now, I believe it is, the Civic Arena is being used on Wednesday mornings for the driver's testing with the state of Minnesota. And we actually have a lease agreement, and then this is an amendment to the lease agreement to extend it for 3 additional years. So how they pay for it is they pay for half a day per week, which is Wednesday morning. The total lease amount comes to $2,340 per year. So that is what this lease agreement is for, is to approve that amendment, extending it for additional 3 years.
Questions?
It's been 9 years already?
Yeah.
Yeah, ever since, we started doing it there when they were doing the big remodel at the Armory.
Right. And it works out rather well. I think I haven't had
it's fine, yeah.
any
Yeah.
complaints or nothing, so. Do I have a motion to approve the lease agreement with the state of Minnesota for lease of arena mezzanine?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7C, approve contract for prosecution services.
Stearns County Attorney Janelle Kendall has presented the city with the draft of an agreement for professional services between the city of Sauk Center, the County of Stearns, and the Stearns County Attorney's Office for 2018 and 19. This is for the criminal prosecution for the police department, and it remains unchanged at $30,000 per year for each of the additional 2 years. So what we're asking for tonight is to approve the criminal prosecution contract with Stearns County for 2018 and 2019 at $30,000 per year.
Questions? Comments? I already see Janelle Kendall's already signed this paper, so
She's optimistic.
she's optimistic.
Anticipation, yes.
Do I have a motion to approve criminal prosecution contract with Stearns County for 2018 and 2019 at $30,000 per year?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2017-53, calling for a public hearing on proposed assessments for unpaid city and utility service charges.
As you know, each year at the end of the year, we do conduct a public hearing and give the property owners an opportunity to come in and talk to the city council about unpaid utilities, which would include your water sewer bill, and it also could include if we're mowing your property or anything like that. And so this resolution simply calls the public hearing for October 18th, and then that'll give us time to give them their notice and to let them know how much is proposed to be assessed to their property. So this is Resolution 2017-53, calling for the public hearing on the unpaid city charges.
Questions, concerns? Something we do every year.
Every year.
So, do I
They
have a,
received notice of
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-53, calling for public hearing on unpaid city charges?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resolution 2017-54, calling for a public hearing on assessments. Whoa,
This is for the
Another one.
Kate's Estates project, and we did have the preliminary assessment hearing. However, the assessments have changed, and so therefore we should give the property owners the opportunity to come in and hear what those new assessments will be. So this resolution calls for a public hearing on the final assessment for Kate's Estates project, also to be held on October 18th. And the property owners will be notified of what that amount will be.
questions?
We'll receive that information in the packet then?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2017-54, calling for public hearing on assessments for Kate's Estates project?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions, concerns? Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7F, approve resolution 2017-55, providing for parking restrictions on state road.
The Sauk Center Public Schools and the Sauk Center Police Chief, they've met and they've discussed having the city restrict parking on State Road adjacent to the school parking lot. And I did put in your packet a map of what row of cars that we're speaking of. In a memo from Chief Fredericks, he said that he would like the no parking signs or resident-only signs in that area. He's got a few reasons here. One, for security reason, prevents contraband having quick access to the school, and vehicles parked in the school parking lot can be checked by school staff regularly or routinely. Number 2, there's been complaints of congestion before and after school because of these parked cars. 3, it opens up the area. It would make it safer for pedestrians, and we'd have better line of sight. And also, it would make sure that all student vehicles would need to be parked on site, making it easier to document during a critical incident call. So these are some of the reasons that the police chief has stated of why they would like to make that a no parking. But what his suggestion is, like, no parking during school hours or something, so that in the evening, if there's a big event or football game or something, you could still park there, but it would just be restricted during school hours. And so that is his request. And then we have a representative from the school here as well, if you have any questions.
My only question is, are the students allowed to access the back parking lot, or is that staff only?
Mr. Peschel can come up to the front.
Right now, our students are, kind of confined in that front area in front of the senior high. There are students that park back there that have industrial technology classes. An example of that would be I'm trying to think here, auto body kids that are going to work on their cars. Those kids are parking spots reserved for them back there. But otherwise, no, that's our staff uses that, and there's not a lot of parking spots available back there either. So,
Okay. The restrictions, you talked about some other things. I understand, I don't have any issue with no parking in that area. I'm almost surprised that didn't happen before. But you made a comment about residents only, and it seems to me that it should just be no parking during school.
yeah, I think Brian and I have talked, Chief Fredericks and I have talked about that. And to be honest, we weren't real clear on how to handle that situation. I did talk to him today a little bit. I know Vicki mentioned it too, 8 to 3, probably just a no
Yeah.
parking scenario would be best, and probably fit the residents as well, because they do have parking on their side of their street, residents only. And I'm very familiar with that area out there. I'm out there daily, and
'Cause
they
I
utilize
know
that.
From when I was picking up kids there are cars parked there are some kids coming out
Yeah.
walking, and they're coming out between cars, and there's a lot of traffic all of a sudden with buses and people picking up cars, or picking up kids. It would be better if there was just nobody along.
Right, and that's, I guess, our biggest concern, because we do have residents that have young kids that do cross the street there, elementary kids, and at the end of the day especially, well, in the morning as well, that gets pretty tight. I know our buses, some of them turn left coming off onto State Road, and that really tightens things, and the window between where, if there's something were to happen, there's no escape route really with the cars parked there. So, I've counted. We have some lunch staff that utilize that parking spot. We have room for them in our lot, and it's probably a dozen cars maximum, student cars that utilize that parking on the street. And our from a school perspective, this is a city street, so for us, it's not a situation where we're just trying to gouge the kids for the $40 for the parking pass, but we have had, in the past, we've had some situations with cars that have been picked up on other streets in Sauk Center that have had some stuff that would not follow state statute in regards to what's in them, with the requirement of the X numbers of feet from a school building. So they were in violation of what was in the car, because there are state laws regarding what can be in a car, and I don't have the exact footage number, but that's, to that street is approximately 300 feet, and those laws extend beyond that, so.
There is, there's a lot of zero tolerance rules and regulations out there basically for school grounds, and the ones that don't want to abide by those zero tolerance are using those parking spots in front.
Right.
And-
Well, yeah, and we don't want to speculate that, Warren, but I'm pretty sure you're accurate. There's some things in those vehicles that would be harmful to our student body, and safety obviously is a top priority as well.
Right.
Does this
So-
create a problem for Lilac Drive, though?
I don't believe so, because I think there's no parking signs down Lilac Drive too during school hours. That area is
I think they're
resident
already-
only.
I think they're already residents.
They're,
during-
yep, they're there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So for right now, we're basically just talking that side of the street on the school side.
Yeah, it would be the east side.
The east side
East
of State Road.
Yep.
Yeah, from 8 to 3.
8 to 3.
Do we have to make the hours part of the motion?
I would suggest we do that, yes.
Okay.
Because then there's gonna be special
Yes.
signage that's gonna go up. And I don't know, I know if we adopt this tonight, I don't know how fast, if Matt's got signs available to get it up right away, or,
Well, the one on 8th Street that leads to the dead end by the elementary school just says no parking except residential during school hours. So I don't know if they'd have something like that.
Yeah, we're just looking for a no parking during school hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution stipulating that it be just no parking during school hours.
okay? We have a motion from Dave to approve Resolution 2017-55, providing for parking restrictions on State Road, with it being 8 to 3 or just during school hours?
School hours, I think school hours, however they want to word the sign, but school hours seems the most
General.
appropriate, general.
Okay.
Okay,
Hate to get a new sign just because the school opens 10 minutes earlier.
right, okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Diane seconded it. Any other comments, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7G, accept resignation of part-time police officer.
Mark Sprengler has submitted his resignation from the Sauk Center Police Department. He has been serving as a part-time officer. I did include in your packet his resignation letter. And so what we're asking for tonight is to accept that resignation from the department.
Okay. Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to accept the resignation of Mark Sprengler from the Sauk Center Police Department?
So moved.
A motion by Heidi, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, hospital areas capital improvement project. Keith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll give you a little, excuse me, update on the project. Last time, we were talking about some storm sewer options. And council directed to look for some other opportunities and see what we could come up with. We have been able to come up with an opportunity on essentially entirely on the west side of Main Street that may work for us. We did meet with the watershed. They are going to be looking for requirements for treating the first inch of water wherever we possibly can. There is a lot kind of south and east of the hospital that the city owns. We looked at utilizing that lot for a infiltration pond, and we can make that work. We would have to do a couple of treatment, they're called hydrodynamic treatment devices. They're like the ones that we have at the hospital that Keith likes so much on the south side. And so we would have to deploy those perhaps at 2 different locations. We'll see when we get into actual permitting if we are required to do them or not. That'll be maybe a potential negotiation, but at this point I've put costs in to be able to do those. There'd be 2 of them on Lake Shore Drive, 1 at Country Club, and 1 just a little bit south of there where there's two discharges into the lake. So we have that, and with that, we can deal with all of our storm sewer on essentially the west side of Main Street. And so that is an option that we'll be bringing forward as part of the feasibility study and bringing that to staff for some final reviews. I think that and perhaps the one in the park that we looked at might be the 2 that kind of come to you for which one do you want, and we'll look at the costs related to it. I don't quite have them tonight. I'm really, really close on that, but it looks like they're going to be fairly close from a cost perspective from either direction. So it probably won't be a big issue there, so it's kind of a question of which one do you think is a better fit. We'll go from there. I have not had a chance to meet with the MnDOT yet. The individual we wanted to meet with was on a vacation. Hopefully we'll get that done early next week, and just to make sure we're coordinated with them. But if we do happen to look at sort of this new alternative, it may be sort of a bit of a moot point because we'll have really no real impact with things that they may be doing through there. So I think a coordination meeting is still good, but it probably will be a little more informational than anything, I'm guessing at that point. So that's kind of where that's at. Plan to bring the report to you would be at the next council meeting. And then you could, at that time, decide if you wish to move forward and go through a public hearing process. I notice we have a bunch of ones on that second meeting in October, so that might be a little tight, but that normally is the one I was thinking we would shoot for, but maybe we want to move it to another meeting, just not to have too many public hearings at once. But we'll have to figure out that schedule, but that's kind of the schedule that would be coming forward with the project. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you may have at this point.
When you were talking about the infiltration pond southeast, what lot is that? Are we talking like by the
It's on the
helipad?
south side of 4th Street. Let's see, it's
Right off the.
it's
end
right off of
Lane.
Oak Street.
This is the one that's marked not a through road right now. with
Yeah,
the-
right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Linden Lane
Yep,
and
it's
4th
right off
Street.
of Oak Street, maybe just a little bit off the one side.
Would we make that a depression then?
Yeah, there would be a small pond. We do have that with sized currently with 5-to-1 slopes on it, which is, as an example, the couple recent ones that we've done are 4-to-1, so it's a little bit flatter than that for those size. And it would be a dry pond. It's meant to be an infiltration pond. The only time you can get some is that freeze-thaw cycle in the winter. You can get some that's going to build up and it's going to stay because the ground's going to be frozen. So it'll probably stay in there until such time as things kind of open up in the spring. But otherwise, generally it'd be dry. But we can accommodate that 1-inch event with some changes and moving some of that stuff to the lake on the north side of the
I'm
hospital.
just
there.
wondering if we'd have to fence that then.
Well, that's a discussion that, ultimately we can have about whether we think that should be appropriate, fenced in that particular area. It's not real huge, so it's not a huge expense. I don't have that item specifically currently in the cost estimates, but we do have contingencies, so, you know, essentially it's covered because it really isn't a big ticket item, but overall, just so you know, for the project, we're looking at project costs. Remember, we have a couple different alternatives with Main Street and Lake Shore. The swing is about 3.8 to 5.5 million total project costs for, you know, base or one of the alternatives or both of the alternatives included is the larger number. So pretty much actually where we were kind of thinking it was in the first place when we gave some real rough numbers of where it would be at. I think we're within $100,000 at the top end. So pretty much still in that same ballpark, depending on what ultimately you may wish to do.
Any other questions?
You said hydrodynamic filtering. What do you mean?
It is, you know, we've got a couple of those devices. One's just to the south of here. They essentially are chambers where the water comes in, it swirls around, and that action makes the sediment
So
drop
it's
out
a
of it.
cyclonic kind of thing?
Yep,
All right.
cyclonic, and it drops out, and then Matt has to go in there and maintain them and suck them out every, you know, quarterly probably, it should be done. So, and I believe he's doing that. And then the other one's up on 4th Street, just south of the hospital there. We'd actually be tying back into that one and still using that particular device up there as well. So there'd be potentially 3 devices up in that vicinity as
Okay.
a total. Okay.
And this is something you're planning on the feasibility study, you're gonna get that to the council sooner than just the Friday before a meeting, so we got
Yep,
time.
we'll
to
get
look
before
at
so you get a chance to look through it.
This is a huge area, it's not
yeah.
gonna be something I'm gonna look
Yeah,
at for.
right, and I'm assuming you're gonna wanna, we'll go through it and we'll talk about it, show you everything, you know, just to make sure that you know, you've been able to read it beforehand and we can discuss any issues and those kinds of things. And then decide whether you wish to go forward, you know, to the next step, which would be to go to a public hearing or not.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you.
We'll end up having preliminary assessments for several different options, because with those alternatives, that you could do one, or you could do the other, you could do both, so there'll be several options
Right.
of things to look at.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. We have no new business, and now brings us to our consent agenda. Schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $113,402.51. Paid claims of $32,964.76 for a total of $146,367.27. We also have resolution number 2017-56, accepting a contribution from the men's card playing group for $203.68 to be allocated to the senior center. I want to thank that group again for another generous donation. Is there any questions or concerns about the consent calendar? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented? We have a motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other last minute questions? Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Informational items. Vicki?
We have a couple informational items. September 16th, which is coming up, is our scrap metal cleanup day. Of course, that's something that we do twice a year, so everybody's very familiar with it. It's held at the Civic Arena, and people can get rid of, you know, e-waste, computers, appliances, exercise equipment, bikes, whatever. And then some of the things have a small fee. TVs and appliances and things may have a small fee. So we do have the ad, and the ad is in the paper, and we're mailing it out to anybody that asks and putting it on Facebook and the website. So hopefully everybody is familiar with that. The second thing that we have is a new event this year, and it's kind of a scavenger day where it's more of an organized event where you put things out on the curb for free that people can come and pick up. And so you can start on Wednesday, the September 13th, till Saturday, September 16th, and you can put anything out on the curb and put free on it. Make sure you mark it free so that anybody can come and get it. And it can be furniture, or it can be almost any item that you don't want to use anymore. Gently used, we're not asking for, you know, things that are really junky that should go to the waste, but yeah, it's something that anybody else can get some use out of, and then other people or groups can drive around town and pick it back up again. But the one thing is that the homeowner is responsible for removing it after the event if it doesn't get picked up. Now, it can either go up to the arena that Saturday if it's a recyclable item, or they can, dispose of it with their garbage pickup, or they can take it back in the house, whatever. And then we do have, from Ruby's Pantry, they have offered to help people, seniors and residents with disabilities, to get things out to the curb or wherever they want to do with it afterwards. So they have a phone number that we're publishing. So this is something new we're trying this year. So of course, the first year, people aren't quite caught on yet, but it may be something that it's very successful in a lot of cities that do this. So we'll see. And then the third item that I have on informational items is I just included in your packet the thank you from John Weisford for the purchase of the new pickup. And that's all I have.
Questions? Anything to add on the informational? Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Heidi, do a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.